Welcome back to the Whatnauts review show number 278. My name is Kyle Springer, and I am joined by Melissa Wilkinson. Melissa,
True.
Did daylight saving time mess you up as much as it did me?
How are you messed up right now?
Melissa, I am messed up. No, I woke up at about the time I normally do during the work week, but it was so much brighter that I woke up faster and realized I have a whole hour and a half before the podcast. So I have to find something else to do.
You had time to watch all of Persona again.
Right? Yeah. I was working on some stuff for our website. But yeah, I was I'm normally used to waking up an hour before the podcast and casually eating something and then sitting down and getting ready. But I was just I have so much time. I don't know what to do with myself. That's been my morning.
Yeah, I had time to do a full yoga routine. I had a leisurely breakfast, shopped for a new computer monitor. I did a lot with my extra hour.
Good stuff. Yeah. Besides that, though, I've had a pretty good weekend. Went to go see Priscilla yesterday.
I also did this.
Yeah.
This has been cool. Most weekends is that you and I meet each other on the review show and we inadvertently saw the same movie.
Yeah, it's good. It makes for an interesting 1-2 punch considering Baz Luhrmann's Elvis came out earlier this year. So yeah, I figure that we'll talk a little bit more about that and our thoughts on that on the Captain's Log. This is next week, but I hope you enjoyed it. I'm assuming you did.
Yeah, that lead actress is from Missouri, much like other breakout star of the season, the owl from Killers of the Flower Moon, also from Missouri.
There you go. There's something in the water over there in Missouri.
We make great talent.
Talons and talent. Anyways, if you guys did not know, every week right here on the Whatnauts review show, we have a different story to talk about. Could be a movie, a TV show, an anime, manga, comic book, all kinds of stuff. We read it, we watch it, we come back here and talk about it. This week on the show, we are talking about Persona, Ingmar Bergman's 1966 film. This kind of psychological thriller about a nurse and her patient who kind of retreat to this beach house to recuperate and recover, and the conversations that the whole thing is that the patient is an actress who has stopped speaking, so she's not really having a conversation here, but it's about their time together, and the thriller aspect kind of comes in as you start to question, is the patient even real? Is the doctor real? Is this the same person secretly? You don't know. So yeah, this was the first time that I had heard about this film. And the reason I wanted to pitch this is because earlier this year you sent me a YouTube video, which was the Cinema Cartographer's top 30 films of all time. And so last week, the end of the podcast, I pitched 3 movies from that list that spoke to me. And this was one of them. This is the one that you picked. What made you pick this one, Melissa?
I was fascinated that when I sent you that video, which I think I sent it to you because I'm like, cool, Akira made this list. You like Akira. I thought you might be interested in watching the entire 2-hour long list video. You picked up on 3 entirely different movies than I would have picked up on from that list. I was not able to predict anything that you pitched to me. And I picked Persona. Logistically, it was shorter than the others and it was very easy to get to. This is streaming on Max, probably in that TCM section. And but also this goes along with a theme we've slowly building over the years, which started with your love of Satoshi Kon's Perfect Blue. And we watched Black Swan and we watched Suspiria. And this is less about an artist in peril. There's very little about the fact that she is an actress. Literally, it's sort of a more general, vague putting on a performance,
mental
being
crisis,
somebody you're not. Right. It's not as literal as
identity crisis. Yeah.
It's not as literal as the pop stardom of Perfect Blue or the dancing of Suspiria or Black Swan. But we do have this theme of the fracturing of a woman artist. And I thought this goes right along with that. Let's continue.
Absolutely. Yeah. I think it was a great pick. I like this one stood out to me, I think, because of the cinematography in this. It's all in black and white. But from what I understand, they experimented with a number of different techniques to get certain shots by using mirrors or smoke, the literal smoke and mirrors, right? Or to do stuff in post-production and layer things on top of one another. I did not get too much of a chance to look into all of that, like how the film was actually made. But even just like a quick glance at their Wikipedia mentioned that they were experimenting with a number of different techniques. And yeah, very much an art film. If you're not into artsier stuff, this might not be for you. Just kind of an interesting start to the film as well. That was something that is maybe, I don't know if abrasive is the right word. It's unexpected.
Sure. Yes.
Right? Where you're just like, wait, what am I watching?
This reminded
and then
me.
It gets into the plot. Yeah.
This reminded me of when we watched Clone High earlier this year, and teenage Joan of Arc makes a little a very abstract, symbolic black and white art movie. This is this.
Yeah.
I did not realize that every time I've seen that parodied in something else, I feel like they're really pulling on Ingmar Bergman's Persona. It's got the It is in black and white. It is very sparse, very spare, symbolic, obscure, very specific
flashes
framing
of imagery, and
this film breaks. It's consciously a film. It'll show you film reels. It'll show you glass cracking and film bubbling up and all that. I'm like, this is it. I didn't realize this is the platonic ideal of everything I've ever seen parodied in another title.
Yeah. This one takes it a step farther and also kind of does that at the end of the film, where it's like, okay, that was the end of the plot. And then you see the film also shut off, and it goes back to that whole thing there with that. But yeah, what an interesting film we watched. I liked it a lot. I was glued to the edge of my seat, just being like, what is happening? How is this break happening? Is this a mystery that I can solve is the nurse real or is the patient real? Are they one person? Are they neither of them? Right? yeah, I don't necessarily think this was something you could solve per se.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, just a fascinating watch from start to finish, for sure.
Yeah, it's got this sort of abstract prologue to it. But then once the plot actually starts, it's so funny that for a movie that is as vague and sort of obscure and like you need to read into the meaning of what's happening, the exposition is so direct and so blunt. As you know, this actress had a mental breakdown during one of her plays. You will be her nurse now. That's very funny to me. It moves along very well. Like I said, it's not very long. It's barely 90 minutes, if that. It's paced well. It goes in a lot of different directions. I had a wild ride with this one, and I found myself rewinding like, hold on, I got to see that again for like extremely mundane things like woman drops a glass.
Yes, that was one of the most fascinating scenes in this. And you're like on the edge of your seat, like, what's going to happen? Will she step on it? Oh, my God. Which is also one of the scenes, like, mentally I tried to read into. At the time, I was like, I could solve this. Like, she's not stepping on this, which means this and that thing metaphorically, and that, whatever. But yeah, I had a good time with this for sure. We already kind of mentioned the plot. The plot is very simple. There is a nurse who is assigned with taking care of this actress who has gone silent. She's refusing to speak. They don't know if this is kind of an actual psychological problem, some kind of mental issue, or if she's faking it and this is for attention, for some kind of role. She is a star, right? So it's like there is this one scene of the like head doctor being like, I know this is what you do, and I know you can talk, like that kind of stuff. Just very demeaning. But they go to this beach house to just kind of quietly get away from society and rest and kind of see if there's any progress on this condition. And during the what I assume is months at least that they're out there, the nurse seems to have this mental breakdown, and that's when you're just like, wait a minute here, what's going on? Is the nurse real? Is the patient real? What's happening? So
am I real?
Am I real? Am I even watching? Is this a real movie?
It zooms out and Ingmar Bergman is playing with two dolls.
Yeah.
One of the dolls is you.
Yeah, how? How do they know what I look like? God. So I recommend it. Go check it out. It's an interesting watch for sure. Do you have any other kind of things you want to add to that before we go into housekeeping and then spoilers?
No, it is a very simple, deceptively simple movie. We've told you what there is to be said.
Yeah, absolutely. That actually reminded me a couple weeks ago when we covered Mindhunter season 1. That is one of the things I would say about that show. It is deceptively simple in like you feel like they're being meticulous with all these details, and it just keeps doing that metaphor over and like that's it. It's so simple. I think that fits with this one as well. But that being said, let's take a quick break for some housekeeping. And when we come back, we will dive a little bit more into the film. So we will be right back. Here at the Whatnauts, we make multiple different shows, and a lot of hard work goes into making them, so we would love it if you check them all out. If you enjoy our shows, patreon.com/thewhatnauts is the best place to show your support. For just $1 a month, you can get early access to episodes, and at our $3 tier, a Patreon-exclusive podcast, The Pilots Club. You can even get a shout out and thank you on most of our shows at the $5 tier. And if you're one of our patrons already, thank you so much, it means the world to us. You can find out more information on our website, thewhatnauts.com, as well as your favorite podcasting platform of choice. When you type in The Whatnauts, all of our shows will pop up right there. Just don't forget to give us a nice rating and review if you like the shows. You can also find us on YouTube and Twitch for video versions of the shows, trailer reactions, and live streams. And lastly, we have merch. If you want to grab yourself a shirt or a hoodie or a mug or something else, head over to thewhatnauts.com/store to pick up some merch today. All right, we are back. Once again, a big shout out to all of our Patreon supporters. We love you a lot. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
It means a ton. Over on the Pilots Club, our Patreon exclusive podcast, you guys can go check out our conversation on Manifest. We watched the pilot episode of Manifest, which is also about a plane. So there's a pilot on the pilot of that one. Good little inception thing happening there with that. But yeah, that was an interesting one. Melissa and I had some differing thoughts on that one. So it was good. It was interesting.
I don't like to have differing thoughts.
Why not? That's great. That's awesome. We should not be robots and have the same thought.
No, that makes me feel like a troublemaker.
Am I the nurse? Are you the patient? Are you the nurse? Am I the patient? Are we one and the same? No. But yeah, go check out our conversation on that. I think that was a great one. Right here on the review show, last week we finished up our spooky month for all of October, and we wrapped it up with Hellboy volumes 7 through 9. We've been discussing Hellboy for the past couple months at the end of the month for our end of the month specials, and we will be wrapping up our coverage of Hellboy here at the end of November. So be on the lookout for that. Over on the Reactor Core, not only do we have our reactions to Loki Season 2, but we just did a trailer reaction for Good Burger 2, which was a lot of fun. And then over on the Captain's Log, which is where we actually filmed the Good Burger 2 trailer reaction, I had the What the Fanta mystery flavor, like all black soda.
What was the fallout from that? Is your body
nothing. Changed? I am the same. I am the exact same. No catastrophe has happened as a result of drinking that that we maybe were expecting. And also over on the Captain's Log, Melissa, you lamented watching Rocky Horror at Home.
I did not lament it. I've seen it in theaters. I've enjoyed it in theaters in like the big rowdy party atmosphere where everyone's in costume and throwing stuff and screaming. And I had a guest who wanted to watch it at home, and I'm like, weird, I've never done that before. So I had an experience focusing on the film just as a film and not as a party centerpiece.
True indeed. Last but not least, our RSS feed stuff should be all taken care of. I've updated us to the new RSS feed. If you've noticed any kind of wonkiness, you might just need to unsubscribe and resubscribe. But I think everything went off without a hitch. My next little project is that now on our website where I've posted the audio version of all the podcasts, I now need to switch those over to the new ones from the new hosting service. So that would take me some time. That's my project for the month. But currently, you can go on to our website, and all of the audio versions of the original Whatnauts podcast have all been switched, as well as Crossplay, our defunct video game podcast that I also happen to be wearing the shirt of today on the podcast. So
shirt's not defunct. Shirt does not cease to exist.
Shirt still operates. It still functions just fine. Still has 2 armholes, 1 head hole, 1 body hole. It
is funny that a video game and a shirt are 2 things that you might need to patch.
Yeah.
Same verb for both.
There you go. But I think that is about it for housekeeping. So let's get on to talking a little more in depth and spoilers for Persona. Also, we're not talking about the video game Persona, the hit video game series Persona. I played like half of Persona 5. It's fine. I know a lot of people really love that game, so for me to say it's fine is like, whoa, dude, that is blasphemy. What is going on here? But yeah, that's fine. That's all right. Not for me.
No comment. I don't.
No comment. Melissa does
no
not
experience.
Video game.
No,
that's okay.
None. Not at all. Can't picture the thing.
Melissa, where do you want to start with Persona?
This is a movie that is weird from the very beginning. It doesn't let you settle into what you think is going to be a normal experience and then take a twist. It starts with images of film being loaded into film canisters, this spliced together bits.
That's
exactly
what it was.
Full penis in there. Not even it's there too long to be subliminal. I fully saw that. Right. Penis is here.
Yeah, that was my first reaction to the film was, oh, hey, penis.
That's fun. I love when you get that in a weird old art movie.
Right, yeah.
Or a weird new art movie.
Right. I was sitting down to watch this. We had just made dinner, so we're up and down as we cut our food, and I hadn't started exactly yet. So I'm watching the film, and it's right there at the start. It does the whole film countdown, 3, 2, and then you don't get the number 1, but then
penis is 1.
First thing, right? Yeah. Right, it was just oh, hey, penis, what's going on?
You get other abstract imagery, you get the little boy laying on what looks like a massage bed. It's so sparse, that is not a bed that a child sleeps on.
I thought
he's laying face down
at first, a dead body.
He's very still. Yes.
Yeah.
And then he sort of wakes up, he's laying on his stomach, he's reading a book, and then he turns and there's a big lady's face on the wall, and it's all blurry, he's looking at it through frosted glass, but it slowly becomes clearer, and he reaches out for the woman, and then it's welcome to Ingmar Bergman's Persona. Here's a nurse. Let's get started.
Yeah. What did you think of that little kid? Because I think that is the most puzzling, it's the most non sequitur.
Yes.
It is the most sequitur image in that.
It fits the sequence.
I don't even know what
yes.
that means. Yeah, it that has the most narrative to all the other stuff you're being shown. And I was wondering if that is that a depiction of Ingmar Bergman himself? Is this later on there is mention of the actress's kid?
Yes.
So is this supposed to be a depiction of him realizing that his mom might have this split personality thing or who knows what. I'm not sure.
I think it is meant to symbolize the son, but the son is not introduced for quite a while. Well, very early on, the actress Elizabeth gets a letter from her husband with a picture of the son, but it doesn't necessarily look like this boy at the beginning of the movie.
The son in the picture looks older. Like, he's a man now.
Right. But then after that, the concept of the son doesn't come back for a while. And after you do get the full context that does make you rethink the opening scene and believe that is the son, especially because something that Alma says in that monologue she gives right at the beginning of the movie, she's like, you were repulsed by his ugly body and his fat lips and all that. And then I watched a clip from the movie again. And I'm like, this kid does have fat lips. Like, did they cast the kid? And then Ingmar Bergman's like, okay, what specifically would you find repulsive about this kid? The lips are weird, right? I'm going to write this down.
Note to self, fat lips.
This kid's weird. Find me out the most repulsive child in Sweden. Like what if that is the son? What an awkward situation to be in, to be that boy. I played repulsive boy in Ingmar Bergman's persona.
Cast as fat lip boy.
Cast as moist, pleading eyes son.
Yeah, I don't know. Like I'm even wondering if the whole kind of non sequitur stuff at the start is more just a reflection on life in general. This idea of discovering yourself, your sexuality, thinking about religion and your place in the world or the universe at large, because we do get a depiction of crucifixion in that as well.
We get a depiction of one nail through one palm, and I'm like, do we have to see both before it counts as crucifixion? Is this just supposed to be plain torture or something?
Sure. Yeah. I mean, well, that's what crucifixion is. Like, it is a form of torture in the Roman Empire.
I just feel like in the parlance of religious iconography, I'm like, weird to see it segmented down so directly and that we don't see more of it. Like when you take it, when you look at it that narrowly of single nail through single palm, like, does this take on a different meaning besides a crucifixion?
I think that's a great question. And yeah, I think it works both ways, right? You are so hyper zoomed in on that it could take on some other meaning, but then that iconography is also just so stark of like, the crucifixion, right?
Yeah,
like that is like the one thing. Yeah. So yeah, like I'm wondering if it's that, and then a little bit of like discovering who your parents are, and like going from that stage of like truly seeing them as mom and dad, but not really seeing them as a person beyond that. Like they're just my mom and dad, right? Like is this that child kind of discovering that, like, oh, my parents have like thoughts and dreams and hopes and concerns and problems of their own, which is not something a child necessarily thinks about, right?
I do want to say I agree with your wondering that until you get the full context towards the end of the movie that redirects you and really indicates that boy is the son. I was with you with thinking, is that supposed to represent Ingmar Bergman himself?
Yeah,
when he's just chilling out, like reading the book, and then suddenly there's this massive woman's face on the wall and he reaches out for her and she becomes more clear. Is that your love of film is awakened? Your love of some mystery woman you see on screen or something? Is this a maturation from boy to man and from audience member to artist, maybe? Is this like, this will inspire me to create?
Yeah. Who knows? So yeah, that is the kind of strangeness that is the opening of the film.
There. Like I said, from there you go directly into the most like blunt exposition with like no vagaries in it.
Yeah, absolutely. I also thought this scene was interesting too, because when I first watched that YouTube video you sent me, one of the directors that was on there, I don't remember his first name, but Ozu, the director of Tokyo Story, other movies like Early Spring. And I watched 2 of his films after seeing his name in that list and realizing that oh, those are also on HBO Max. And something that Ozu does a lot is he has his characters look directly into the camera as they speak, as they have a conversation with another character. And whenever you have an actor look directly into the character, for some reason it makes it a little uncomfortable to watch, like they are speaking directly to you, and especially if they are pouring their heart out in some like heartfelt scene, right? It's just a little weird that they're looking at you, right? And you're like, just like,
what do you want me to do about this?
Yeah. What am I supposed to do? And this, I think because it revolves around medical stuff, it has a similar feeling where everyone is kind of oddly uncomfortable, like talking to a doctor or stuff like that, or like you feel like you're about to get bad news, or it's going to be harsh, or it's going to be an amount of detail that you don't necessarily want. And who knows, maybe that's just me and my like, I feel uncomfortable at a doctor's office. There's just it's weird.
Everybody does. Nobody likes it there.
But well, except a hypochondriac who's just like, Doc, I'm sick, I have something, right?
Maybe.
But yeah, like they don't look directly at the camera. It's just off to the side, like I do with these podcasts here. But it also, like, I felt like I'm in the room there with them. Like I'm standing next to the doctor, and I'm still like, I don't know what I can do. Why am I here in this room? It still felt uncomfortable to me, even though they weren't talking directly to me. But yeah, it's just exposition, though. And it has this odd feeling. And the doctor's office is also this, it felt dreamlike in how minimal everything was.
This is the most unnerving part of the movie for me, at least the early part of the movie. When they go to that beach house, that feels like a real enough beach house. But when they're in the hospital, it's so artificial and so stagey. Like Elizabeth's room is literally just a bed, and not even like a full hospital bed. Like I said, these things are so sparse. They are almost like just a massage table that gets set up. It just has one bed and like one little TV stand. Like there's nothing there. It's just all these blank gray walls, and you look at them and you're like, I know, not just that I know, like mentally, like intellectually, like I feel that there is like the walls stop just above where the camera stops filming. The walls stop, and then it's just like black ceiling of a soundstage and lighting rigs. Like I know that is hovering over us. We are not in a real room at all.
Which in hindsight also adds to like this idea of like, oh, this is an actress studying what it's like to be this kind of patient, or studying this nurse, as the letter then is like, yeah, I'm studying her character, right? And it's just like, huh, okay, what's happening here? So yeah, it feels like a construct, whether it is a like physical thing on set for something this actress is doing, or the opposite, that something is up with this nurse and maybe she has this like she wants to be this movie star, and that's how she's thinking of her life, of her job, of like, oh, I'm on set, right? I get to be an actress or something like that. So yeah, just a weird feeling all around at the start of this. It's unsettling for sure.
And then when you go to the beach house, like I said, it feels real enough, but it doesn't seem like that is a beach house with any electricity. They're using like old timey gas lamps. Like I can imagine maybe, I don't know, the the electric grid of Sweden in 1966. But I can't imagine we have a little beach cottage. Maybe you have a battery powered radio and gas lamps. You don't have the electricity. Sure. Okay. There's also something so sparse about that structure, even though I can see this really does feel like a structure. I can imagine a ceiling and a
much
roof
more
and all that.
Lived in.
A little bit, but there's still barely anything in it. And you really don't have a great sense of geography and space in the beach house. Like after the famous glass dropping scene, we see Alma go into the space that just has like one table with one lamp and one ashtray on it. And I'm like, what room is this? What is this room for? What do you do here?
Smoking room. Yeah.
I guess.
Yeah, it's an interesting space because you're right. It's still sparse, but compared to the doctor's office is much more lived in, much more cramped. Like the space feels smaller, but they're also secluded on this beach, which like gives you this idea of like open space. There's this huge ocean right there. It seems like they can like go into town if they need to get groceries. So yeah, it's definitely it paints a much different picture of what's going on, but it is also still because you don't have that sense of space. It is almost claustrophobic in that space. This film, I feel like, does a lot with like not very many actors, like small spaces, like just there's not much happening, but they certainly do a lot. What did you think about? Again, this is my whole thing of they're not conversations, the nurse's monologues to the actress. What did you think of their? Again, I can't say exchanges. They're one-sided conversations.
Yeah, it makes sense. I think Elizabeth has gone through this testing and they're like, there's nothing physically or mentally wrong with her. She's just made the choice to not talk anymore. And we can only hope that we can treat her well and let her rest and let her recuperate. And maybe she will decide to speak again and she can get back to where she was. So it is Alma's role to kind of coax her out of it, be her friend. They develop this real sisterly, sort of almost like slumber party dynamic towards the beginning of their stay. They're enjoying time with each other. She will like read to Elizabeth out of a book she's reading, or they'll play games or go walk along the beach or something like that. And you do slowly see how it turns from I'm opening up to you to open up to you in the hopes that you will open up back to me. Like this is a strategy I am using, which makes it sound insincere. She does want to befriend this woman. She does enjoy her company. She wants to share things with her. And you can see how it turns from I am talking to help you out. I'm talking because I want to share. I am talking to fill up space. I am talking out of this weird sense of like power and paranoia and desperation.
Interesting.
Please give something back to me. I have to hear back from you. I am enjoying that I am sort of this sort of not power imbalance, but like I can dominate every conversation because this isn't a conversation. I can talk, and I know you will listen. After a while, it's like, can you prove to me you're listening, please? Can you converse back to me? Can you prove that I am real? Can you turn this from a monologue into a dialogue now?
Yeah. I do think at some point there is a sincerity in the way the nurse opens up to her. It does start with the like, this is what I'm paid to do. I'm talking to you to like start this stuff. But yeah, then they like as they spend time together, there is a sincerity in what the nurse is sharing. There is the big monologue about the like sexual escapade on the beach where she gets pregnant and all of that, which is like very revealing, very vulnerable, all of this stuff. And the actress is like, she looks like she's actively listening. She's just not speaking or what I do here on the podcast, whereas you speak, I'm just like, yeah, right. Right.
Yeah.
Right?
And we have to have this as a podcast. I know we do put it out on video, but like we have to do this very active listening where we have to go, yeah, we have to like make active listening noises so that it's not just straight silence for one of our sides for like 10 minutes when you're listening to the podcast. And I've noticed I will do this to other people in real life.
Yeah.
Right. Like I am making a lot of listening noises at people in real life when I'm not on a podcast. And I know I didn't used to do this. And I know non-podcasters don't do this.
I feel like those noises and like, yeah, like what the nurse is hoping for is confirmation of you actively being in the conversation. Even if you aren't saying something, you don't have a full sentence, you don't have a retort or a rebuttal, right? You are still taking part in that conversation. But in this case, the actress is awake and alert. She's looking at her, maybe nodding her head at the most, but that's kind of it. And yeah, I think this like very vulnerable state that this nurse puts herself in starts to evolve into this frustration, if not resentment of like, I have opened up to you so much and you won't give me a single drop. Like, what is wrong with you? And it is this like desperation and just like, Dah!
And
Right?
the Elizabeth has started writing letters, and Alma will like seemingly drive them into town to drop them off at a mailbox. And one day Alma gives her a letter where the envelope's a little open, and Alma's got nothing out of her. So she opens up the envelope to read the letter. She's like, I would love to know what this woman has to say to anyone about anything. And it's a letter to the doctor who like lent these two women her beach house for the summer. And Elizabeth's like, I like Alma. You know, she's fun. She's really interesting. Told me all of these wild stories. Boy, is she fun to study. And it really turns Alma on her.
Yeah.
That this woman, now she has become this pawn in a way where she was not before.
Yeah, it is the last line of that note that suggests that, like, this is not what Alma thought it was, right? She is not the nurse taking care of the patient, but this actress is, like, studying the nurse for a role.
for who knows what. You can tell that Alma was thinking, you're not talking to me, but you are engaged with this. You are also in the same slumber party vibe that I am feeling.
Mm-hmm.
And then to learn, no, I'm having fun and making a friend, and she isn't. She doesn't look at me like a friend. She likes me, but ultimately I am a curiosity to her. She's studying me for what? It doesn't specifically say,
right, yeah,
I'm going to base a role off this woman in the future, but it is like, what? Maybe that makes it worse. She's like, what do you want from me? What is this for?
Yeah.
What will you do with what you've learned?
Yeah. And that line kind of reminded me, remember when we read House of Leaves?
Yeah.
And there's that one chapter that like just spends all the time just like academically defining how an echo works. And then like the end of the next chapter after that, there's a line and it echoed or something along that. And it's terrifying because you spent all that time. Like that's almost what this felt like of this. Like it's similar, but not the exact same. But yeah, this idea of like, no, I'm the one being studied. Like I'm not the nurse that I thought I was in this situation. That I'm the animal in the cage that is this beach house here, right? And so yeah, things just start to kind of bubble over after that. And then I think it's shortly after that when we get the glass that breaks. Right? Is that the order of operations here?
I think so. And this is like I said, I had to rewind it to watch like moment by moment what all of the intention is. So Alma's out there on the porch. She's holding a drinking glass. She accidentally drops it. She gets like a little dustpan, sweeps it up. Then we hear Elizabeth approaching, and we see from Alma's point of view that there's a chunk of glass that she seems like truly accidentally missed that is still sitting there like on the gravel path. And it's difficult to read her face if she's like, I don't want Elizabeth to see me moving this out of the way because I'm embarrassed that I dropped the glass. Or if it's like, I kind of want to see her step on the glass.
Right, which is exactly what I felt was her actively choosing to, I'm not going to warn her that this is there. Let's see what she does. Right. I feel like it is her trying to turn the tables of, can I be a nurse again? Will I have something to fix? Will I be able to stitch up a cut? I am the one. It's her trying to regain control. But also at the same time, like at this point, I'm in the thick of it of like, who's real here? What's happening exactly? Like,
right. Well,
is the actress real? What's happening? Is she talking to herself? You see
Elizabeth step on the glass, and then Alma suddenly has a cut on her foot. Like, what is the reveal here?
Yeah, like I don't know if I took it that far mentally, but this idea of this glass, like it's see-through, it's kind of hard to see where it is, and if she doesn't know it's there, she would probably step on it. It's in a pretty like blatant space. Someone will step on this here, but does she like subconsciously have the knowledge that it's there? And so yeah, we see her step out onto the ground just to the side of it, and you're just like, she almost stepped on that. And like you almost are like wanting her to step on it to see what happens. But yeah, my mind was thinking like, does she actually know it's there with that? Like, is she not acknowledging the glass but still knows it's there? So subconsciously like stepped to the side. Is she also playing with Alma to be like, well, fuck you, I'm not gonna step on this, even though you think I will. And so yeah, I was like hyper analyzing the scenario of like, will she come back and step on it on her way inside? Like, what's happening here? And I thought, yeah, it was a fascinating scene, because it's kind of one of those things that as a viewer, I am reading into more than I think is actually there, or maybe was intended. Like I don't know what the intention of this scene is supposed to be exactly, but I bring my own connotation to this scene in particular. And I feel like it makes the movie that much more interesting to me. It also kind of reminded me a couple weeks ago, we watched Girl Walks Home Alone at Night.
Yes.
And there's just this really, really fascinating, very slow scene that is just brilliant. It's gorgeous to watch, but it moves at this glacial pace, and you're wondering what's happening. It looks like one thing, but then this other thing, but then this other thing, and then right, it's just, I don't know what's happening. What is happening here? So I thought this was a fantastic scene.
And then after this is when Alma goes to the smoking porch, I guess. And then Elizabeth does step on the glass, and she makes some sort of noise. It's not words, but it is some sort of a gasp. Yeah. And then the camera's on Alma as you see or hear this. And then the camera just like, it's like the glass of the lens shatters. There's this big crack down Alma's face, and it like freezes, but then midway through the freeze, like one of her eyes turns and looks at you.
Yeah.
That's a real shocker.
Yeah. Great stuff, because it like the scene where she does step on it and gasp is it seems like it could be something from the like you've seen the like YouTube channels or the TikTok videos of the like perfectly cut screams, right, where like something and it just stops like right there. Yeah, like that's what that felt like. But we do also get this shattering, and yeah, it is it does feel symbolic of like, this is it, this is the moment where we are in the thick of it. We don't know who's who. If this is the same person, which one is the dominant persona?
Yeah.
Here. Yeah, I don't know at this point of like what's real exactly. And it works, but it's just like, it's so simple. It's not like when you look at like Aronofsky's Black Swan, there is this kind of slow tension build up, and it like you see that full scream, I feel like, in that movie, where this one cuts it off and then gives you a symbol instead. Or like in Perfect Blue, you realize that there maybe is not this distinction of personas like you thought, or the bad guy is not who you thought it was going to be here. There is a twist on that in Perfect Blue, but this is just so simple, and it's so effective.
Yeah.
Which is good. Good stuff. Bravo.
And there's a further blurring of the women when seemingly Elizabeth's husband comes to visit, and you see that he is blind, and maybe Elizabeth has been silent for so long that maybe he doesn't remember what her voice sounds like. We never really do hear her speak enough to tell if her and Alma sound similar to each other. So Alma like steps in and like is Elizabeth and like makes love to him while Alma just like lays there and cries silently.
Yeah, or is this a scene of her not in her typical persona, and that's why the husband doesn't necessarily recognize her exactly? Yeah, it's just the whole thing is strange, and you're just in this like spiral of like, what is happening here?
Right.
So yeah, that was an interesting scene.
And then it all comes to that final monologue where Alma like sits Elizabeth down and tells her, this is what happened with you and your son. This is your life. This is how you got pregnant and how you felt about the pregnancy. And then your son was born and you just wanted to leave him. You wanted to go back to the stage and all of this. And the camera is on Alma. There's a lot of scenes in this movie where somebody is speaking and you don't see them at all. The camera is only on the person who is being spoken to.
Yeah.
So you just watch Alma's face reacting to all this, or just like laying her bare with all this. And then it shifts and you hear the exact same monologue again, but now the camera is on Alma saying it to Elizabeth. And now Elizabeth isn't in the frame at all.
Yeah. Yeah. What did you think of that? How did you read that scene where it does that monologue twice?
You never see that in a movie back to back like this. If you see it at all, it's like, here's the scene towards the beginning, here's the scene later from another angle, recontextualized to where you learn something. You learn that somebody is there who you didn't know was there. There's further information gathered. There is a twist. That isn't here. It's just once and then again. It's almost like you're watching dailies from there on the film shoot more than you were watching the final edited film. And I'm not sure what to make of it. It's looking at it literally in the world of the film, you're like, how could Alma know this about Elizabeth? It's too specific to just be, I've learned some details about your life from like your medical record or from the doctor or whoever, and I am able to like read you emotionally. It's so in her head. And Alma, Elizabeth really reacts to it like, this is true. You've found me out. You know what I have been thinking and feeling. Like this more than anything else, I think gives credence to the read that they are one person. Because how else could Alma do that to Elizabeth? Like, here I am narrating your own private, personal, inside your own mind secrets at you.
Yeah. I feel like I almost took this scene a little bit more sinisterly, if that makes sense. Like I think the first time you hear it, it is sad, right? It is this like, you are a broken woman. Here's what your life has been like, and she's like hearing all of this information and kind of like crying of like, how could I have forgotten all of this, or how did all of this lead me to where I am now? It doesn't necessarily make sense. I'm sad that I've kind of screwed it up and you know done all of that. But then when you get that second go around and you're looking at the nurse like telling it to her, that's a much more forceful feeling of like, now I'm telling you, I'm feeding you this information. And so it felt almost like, we've broken you so much, now we're building you back up with a new persona. This might not have been exactly what happened, but here's what we're gonna go with from here on out. This is who you are. And yeah, it just like, it's not necessarily like you were a murderer and you did this and you did like, right? It's not sinister in that way, but it felt almost like they're making up a story, but you have no part in what story they're making up. And here it is. I don't know. I like it. Not saying that was like my final thoughts on the film, that like at the end of the day it's a sinister film and right, but like there's something more forceful to like when you are looking at the person being spoken to versus the one doing the speaking. That second one, if you watch the person doing the speaking, it's like, here's the facts. Here's what you need to know.
Sure. I understand your perspective, that it feels more like the part of an interrogation scene where the interrogator is like, I'm going to tell you what's going to happen to you.
Right. Yes. Yeah.
I'm going to tell you who
exactly.
I think you are, or who you are going to be from now on.
Yeah, exactly. And then we get the like I think the like climactic scene of their two faces like slowly merging into one face, which also kind of leads to like the nurse telling her what the story is. It feels more like, well, let's mix our two stories so we are now one character. Here in that, and yeah, it does the thing where it flashes like it's her face and then her face, and then now it's kind of both of their faces, and then it's one face. Oh no! Which is an interesting thing to see, because like normally when you have a movie about two people that are supposed to look alike, like I feel like when you do something like this, you then realize, oh, they don't actually look a lot like when you compare them side by side here. It makes this weird looking face here, but I didn't necessarily feel that exactly when they put the like morph to one face. Their noses are slightly different, so one nostril definitely looks different, but it doesn't feel that like unheard of, right? It's just like, oh, like maybe you had an accident when you were younger and your nose is slightly crooked in a way, right? Like it doesn't feel unnatural, if that makes sense. So it's kind of wild to me that like, oh yeah, this looks like a face that is a mix of both of them.
Yeah, it's sort of an odd optical illusion there at the end.
Yeah.
Very early on in the movie, like right after Alma introduces herself to Elizabeth, we get a scene of her at night, maybe it's another very sparse setting. So I wonder if this is just her bare bones dormitory room at the hospital, perhaps. Or she's getting ready for bed. She like goes to bed and then she turns the lights off, and then she's like, oh, damn. And she turns the lights back on and like puts on like a face cream she forgot about, which is interesting that they put that little step and then step back in there at all. And it doesn't just start with, here I am getting ready for bed, putting on my face cream. But she's sort of musing to herself. I'm happy that I know what direction my life is going in and I don't have to think about it too hard. I'm going to marry my boyfriend, Carl Henrik. We're going to have like 5 kids. It's all laid out in front of me. I don't have to do anything. This is wonderful. And later when she tells the story of that sexual encounter on the beach to Elizabeth, where she gets pregnant from just some strange local boy. Yep. And then her Carl Henrik, her boyfriend, is a doctor and like arranges for her to have an abortion. And she's like, we were relieved we could have that done. We didn't want kids then. But it's not clear, like, how long ago was that exactly? Where are you in your relationship now? How does Carl Henrik feel about you taking on this nursing assignment where you were just off on like a beach for 3 solid months and you never see him. Like Carl Henrik definitely feels fictional. I don't feel like that guy's real at all. And then the final monologue, there's a lot about sort of the desire for motherhood being one of the things that splits your mind, splits how you feel about yourself. Like you have these two different sides, and it can be from maybe moment to moment of like, I'm young, I got pregnant, I would like to have a child, but not now. The circumstances are wrong now. But also maybe this larger societal thing, or like how Elizabeth feels, where she's like, I feel like I'm supposed to get pregnant. Like if I was a mother, people would look at me differently and they may look at me more favorably. Then she doesn't like physically being pregnant. She has this long, arduous birthing process. She just wants to get out of her nursing bed with her son and get back to work being the stage actress. And again, it's like, it's both the more narrowed, circumstantial, yes, but not right now, and also the larger, like, is this what I want my life to be like? Am I ultimately succumbing and like giving myself to this thing? What are the repercussions it's going to have on other aspects of my life? Is it worth being looked at as a mother, as this sort of traditional, natural, loving figure in exchange for everything I would have to give up for it? The sort of back and forth on, do I want to be a mother or not? I really liked that was the hinge on which maybe this woman, or these women, depending on how you look at it, sort of broke and have these multiple sides to themselves.
Yeah. I'm trying to think to myself if I feel like this movie has almost a negative view on motherhood. And I don't think it does.
No.
But like I feel like using motherhood as you described as this hinge, I feel like that is a potential thought for some people, right? That like motherhood could ruin my career. It could change the trajectory of my life. That's sort of thing there. And so, yeah, like that, I think then plays into your identity. That like, hey, if I become a mother, how will that change me? Does it need to change me? Does it like I think it's more examining or exploring, like bringing up those questions rather than taking a stance on like motherhood is bad, right? It will ruin your life and you will become someone else entirely.
Right. And I don't think it's saying that. It is merely depicting women who do have these fears or have these feelings or have an ambivalence of sometimes I want this and sometimes I don't, or I would want it, but I don't want to give up goal, this thing in exchange for it.
Let me do these things first, and then we can think about, So yeah, lots of stuff to think about with this movie for sure. I don't know if I have much else to say on it. We do have this end sequence, though, of the film kind of ending and the whole like light bulb of the projector turning off, and that's it and stuff like that. So
there's one scene I want to talk about, less in terms of what it means metaphorically, just in terms of like the technicality of it, where it's after the glass incident, but before the monologue about getting pregnant, where Elizabeth turns and walks out of the cabin and Alma follows her. And you see this tracking shot following the two women as they like walk across the beach. And it's clear that it's like, this is shot from the cameras in the bed of a truck or something. This is shot from a car. And I was really impressed for it, like for the time in which it came out. I don't know the history of like dollies and things like that and what was available when and at what
Right.
times, but it's a long shot. I wonder if maybe even if they had a
Especially
dolly
since
for
this is
like
a foreign film too. It's a Swedish film, and it's not like it's a Hollywood production.
Right. I don't know what Sweden had in 1966.
Exactly.
I don't know what was the most they were capable of. I don't want to presume that they didn't have every trick up their sleeves that American Hollywood can have. But I'm like, is this a deliberate choice? Maybe you didn't have a dolly, or maybe you had a dolly, but it could only go from like one end of the room to the other. And you want it to track these women across like several, like, the 100 yards or something as they go across this beach.
Yeah.
But I've just never seen anything quite like that, especially in a movie that is so still and so like deliberately framed and slow paced that now we have this shot from the back of a truck where it's like, it is kind of rough looking, but I liked it a lot.
It's odd because it's another technique that if you saw this in a modern day film, it feels like you're in the scene. It feels like I'm in a car watching them do all of this stuff. And if you get a much like smoother dolly tracking shot kind of thing, it takes out that like that shake, that camera shake that makes me feel like I'm the one operating the camera, or I'm right there watching it. So yeah, it would have felt less personable, but it's just an interesting. I don't know if this was an intended consequence or not, but it feels like I'm there in that scene too, and I don't know how. Right? It's like, why am I here? What's happening? I don't know.
Right. And like and you're like at a distance from them. Like the women are on the beach, and then there's like a patch of trees or whatever, and you're clearly like 20 or 30 feet away from them, like on the road. There's a distance, there's a removal, there's like you trying to like catch up to them when you're in this vehicle. Yeah, it really does kind of put you in the scene in a very different way than scenes where like the characters are speaking directly at you.
Yeah, absolutely. That was an interesting scene. There's so like I mentioned the cinematography was one of the things why I chose to pitch this one. And yeah, just absolutely some gorgeous shots of I even think about the scene where they're at the beach house. The nurse goes to bed, and then like out of the like white room, the actress comes into her room and is like haunting her in that scene, and then walks away. And then when asked about it the next day is like, hey, were you in my room last night? And she just shakes her head silently like, no. And then the other scene we have not talked about, which I'm surprised that I almost forgot this. The scene it's late one night, they've had some drinks. The nurse is obviously tired, about to fall asleep on the table, and then you get this shot that's like over the shoulder of the actress, so you can't see her face, you can't see her mouth, like all of that, and it sounds like the actress says something like, hey, you should go to bed or you'll fall asleep here at the table. And the nurse like perks up at that, and like, wait, did you just speak to me? But she had her like head down, face turned, like you can't see her mouth either, so you don't know who says this. And yeah, they look alike. They kind of sound, I mean, I guess you can imagine they sound alike. So you're just unsure of like, wait, what just happened here in this scene? And then the nurse says the exact same thing, like, I should go to bed so I don't fall asleep here at the table. And it's just like, this is weird. Yeah,
she sort of says it like she just thought of it herself. And
exactly.
You're like, maybe she did, maybe she didn't. I'm not sure.
did I hear her thoughts? Yeah, so there's stuff like that where the camera is playing tricks on you. Just those interesting scenes of like the two faces superimposed on one another, or one like looking at the camera while one is looking across it. Just some gorgeous shots there with all of that. It's a really stunning film for sure. Yeah, that's my thoughts on Persona.
Yeah, I'm happy we watched this one. I had a good time with this. I really recommend it, especially if you want to get in some film history vegetables in your diet. It's like it's very accessible and it's fairly breezy. Like I said, it's like not even it's an hour and 25 minutes. It doesn't even hit that 90-minute mark.
Yeah. As much as some people might say it's still like, oh, it's a artsy pretentious art film, right? It's not an artsy film that's like 4 hours. That's just like, oh my god, right? I have to sit through all of this for 4 hours. It's easy breezy.
This feels accessible. Yep.
Yes,
you can
absolutely.
do it.
Definitely. I would bring up bingo here, but we don't
I just
have
looked.
an update.
We don't got anything.
No update on bingo, so let's jump right to recommendations. I just off the top, we already mentioned a few at the beginning of this podcast, from Satoshi Kon's Perfect Blue to Aronofsky's Black Swan. And then you also mentioned Suspiria, where I'm assuming you were talking about the modern
We've
remake.
watched both Suspirias, but yeah, thematically, the remake of Suspiria is more in line here.
Yeah. And we have covered those on the podcast here before. Let me see. Perfect Blue, we covered way back on
it was
episode
an early one.
46. Yeah. And then let's see. Black Swan we did on episode 197. And then Suspiria we did for episode 181. So you guys can go check out our thoughts on all of those for sure. I have one recommendation, and not much else, because it's another thing that kind of like it's so oddly specific, like what kind of film this is, the themes that they're playing on. It doesn't necessarily read as like, oh, a niche film or stuff like that, but in its own way, it kind of is. There is a video game that I want to recommend. That is maybe one of the most non-video games out there. It's interesting. It's called, oh god, I just forgot what it was called. I looked it up earlier, because I was like, I need to remember the name of this. It is called Immortality. And it is available both on Xbox Game Pass as well as Netflix. If you have a Netflix subscription, you can technically play this on your computer. I think it also might work on your phone too. I know Netflix has dived into video games a little bit, and they have some interesting ones you can play. But please check this out if you're into film and film history and like movies like we just watched, because this is a game where on the surface you are looking through a bunch of film footage. That's kind of what the game is. But you are looking through the film of 3 movies that a certain actress had played at different decades of her career, and trying to figure out what happened to her. And it is you like looking at a scene of a movie, and then like the director calls cut, and you get to see the like behind the scenes stuff. And gameplay, you can click on different things in the film at any time, and it will match cut you to another random film strip from either that same movie or one of these other two movies. And yeah, it's just like as you like jump around in this, you start kind of uncovering her story, and then something happens. And it's really interesting, and it also plays with you like, okay, no, I need to rewind that and see what happened. Like, like there's a mechanic in this of like you slowly rewinding and fast forwarding at certain times to understand what's happening. Because yeah, there's some bonkers stuff in that. I feel like it's hard to explain, but at the very least, go check out a trailer. It is incredible. Some stuff that they did with that. It's one that has like stuck with me since playing it last year. Of just like that thing was incredible. So, go check it out.
I did come up with one recommendation. It's actually also a Netflix exclusive. It is the movie The Lost Daughter. This came out in 2021, I think. Directorial debut of Maggie Gyllenhaal. And this stars Olivia Colman as this like professor who's on leave, and she goes to take an extended leisurely vacation on like some island in Greece, where she's just sitting out on the beach, like reading all day. And there's a big party who's also doing an extended vacation at the same beach at the same time as her, including Dakota Johnson from the remake of Suspiria, who's got like her little girl with her. And one day, like the little girl sort of disappears and comes back. She's like lost for like, I don't know, like half an hour or something, like not very long. And it's about the sort of feelings that both of these women have, both of these mothers have during this incident and the fallout of it, where you're like, did Olivia Colman have something to do with that? Like you just have weird energy off of her, and then you keep flashing back to her when she was younger, played by Jessie Buckley, and like her sort of ambivalent relationship with her two little girls she had, even though now that she's like, you know, however old Olivia Colman is, she's like, oh yeah, I have my two daughters. I don't catch up with them as much as I should. And then you see flashes back to her when she's younger, and she's like, girls, get out of my hair. I have to finish my dissertation. It's real. If you want beach vibes and troubling, ambivalent up to potentially troubling feelings regarding motherhood, watch The Lost Daughter.
Interesting. Okay. Well, there you go. Those are our recommendations for this week. Which means, Melissa, it is your turn to do some pitches for what we will talk about next week.
I have no pitches. I just have one, not an assignment, but a gift for you. Your birthday is coming up. It's in 2 weeks. So this is an early birthday present for you that we will talk about next week. Earlier this year, friend of the show, Jack, and I watched this movie, and we both determined this is a Kyle ass movie.
Yeah.
And I know you haven't seen
what it is, but I'm excited.
I know you haven't seen it, because if you had seen it, you would have brought it up by now. So my hope is that I am gifting you with a terrific, brand new film experience for you. Your present is that you will watch the film Under the Silver Lake. Have you heard this title before?
No, not at all.
It is on Max. It stars Andrew Garfield. I'll tell you that much.
Okay,
I want you to watch this movie. I want you to watch this movie, and then after you watch it, look into it. Do some research, look it up on YouTube, watch some video essays.
Interesting. Yeah, no, I have not heard of this at all. I see Andrew Garfield looking real disheveled.
Yeah, that is most disheveled here.
Which feels like a vibe. So I am about it. Okay. Under the Silver Lake. Do you want me to like know as little as possible going in? Do you have a plot synopsis that you're able to?
I'll tell you that this goes along with mystery Kyle, crime Kyle. That's the side of you that's really going to like this movie. And the past review show topics that I feel it is most like would be Angeline and brand new cherry flavor.
Ooh, okay. Interesting. I see a bit of the poster with the tagline, "What are they hiding?" Interesting. Okay. I'm stoked. I'm happy. This sounds good. I have no idea what it's about, but I'm happy and it sounds good.
You'll enjoy.
Crime Kyle activated.
Like I said, watch it. Give yourself time to watch it earlier in the week so that then you have like a day or two to go down the rabbit hole of it afterwards.
Okay. Good to know. Good to know. I will do that. Well, perfect. Yeah, that's what we will cover this next week, Under the Silver Lake. You said this was available on Max, right? Perfect.
Should be.
And then, yeah, at the end of the month, don't forget we are closing out our Hellboy coverage and rating Hellboy volumes 10 through 12. So just a heads up on that. Yeah, this has been the review show for this week. So, Melissa, where can the people find you on the internet?
I have a letterbox, not much on it yet, but you can find me there at Wilkywit, WILKYWIT.
Ooh, you can go review Priscilla, which has an equally fantastic shot of her just looking disheveled.
Among the best disheveled movies.
Right, yeah.
I'll make a list.
It's not a disheveled movie, which is what makes that scene so fantastic when she is. But anyways, you guys can find me at Yo Kyle Springer on most of the social medias. And if you'd like to stay up to date with all the stuff that we do here at the Whatnauts, we are at the Whatnauts at most places. So yeah, go like, share, subscribe. That would help us out a ton. If you're watching this on YouTube, go check out one of our other videos right over there. That would also help us out a bunch. So yeah, this has been number 278 of the Whatnauts review show. We will see you all next time. Bye.
Bye.